Hello, it's Molly Reamer with Bridges Grove and 30 Days of Goddess, and I wanted to do a quick little flip-through video of a finished 7 Days of Goddess prayer book. And 7 Days of Goddess is a free introductory devotional class using the same concepts and ideas of 30 Days of Goddess, which really could be called 365 Days of Goddess or Goddess Every Day. But anyway, this is a flip-through of what a finished 7-day book might look like. I created the 7-day class so that it didn't have as much pressure as a 30-day class or a 365-day class, but rather felt like a discrete and doable length of time. So for this one, I just used scrapbook paper and I sewed it, but you can staple it if you want to. And then I put an envelope in the side here to hold things, and I accidentally trimmed the cover and cut the envelope open on the side. So I created a little pocket that way that holds a little prayer card with a poem that I cut out of Wee Moon and used on a greeting card from a charity. And so I made a little, basically it's a little insert that slides in there. If this had been going on for a longer session of time, other than like longer than 7 days, I probably would have added other stuff here and it would have gotten a little fatter, but as it is, I only had that little card that I made to put in there. And so these are the printed pages. I didn't end up coloring this stuff. I might go back and do it, but that's what that's there for. And I kept these pages really simple. You will see a lot of variation with people's 30 Days of Goddess prayer books and what they do, remembering that the prayer book is intended to be like a container for the experience. And so it should be something that works for you, not something that makes you feel pressured or stressed or like you're not doing it right. So it can take a lot of different forms. This page I did purely with my own things that I can glue down. So there was no fresh writing other than a small notation about the magic moment and a small affirmation. And then I had some little tags that I had sent out to our patrons at Patreon, which is patreon.com/BridgesGrove. And so I made one of those with another thing that I printed out. But basically, this one was just done with already available materials that I printed and glued in. And I find that can be really great way to keep a simple prayer book practice going is literally just print out the stuff that I provide or print out stuff that other people provide to you and then just mix and match and combine it, and it can be a very fulfilling experience without writing or drawing anything new. I used some art from Joni Ray of Tales of a Kitchen Witch. I'm one of her patrons on Patreon. It's Tales of a Kitchen Witch, and she's Joni Ray Latham on Instagram. And so I printed that out, and I didn't even end up coloring it. I just stuck it in, and that page counts. You know, it's not a fail. And I was going to show you that. I did put another envelope that I didn't accidentally cut open in the back, and that's where I used the printouts that I make available for this class. That's where I put the printouts. So the word cards were in there, and the little prayer cards were tucked in there, and then each day I would shuffle through and choose one. And I used the words that were going with the current 30 Days of Goddess month. I used those words and then combined them with a word card that I picked from the 9 cards that are available in the 7 Days of Goddess classroom. I would pick one of those cards and I'd pick one of those prayers, and then I combined them, either making the word into a pocket or the prayer into a pocket and tucking the word into it. And that felt good to me. These cards are available from our Living the Questions free class, and so I just cut those up and combined them. This came from a magazine. And this one I ended up combining the words. So I was on a word keep for 30 Days of Goddess. I chose sustain from the 7 Days of Goddess prayer cards, and so I combined them and made an affirmation based on both the words. I like to make teeny tiny little books, and so I used some of our mini affirmation cards and made a tiny little ad in here. And then I had a leftover scrap from the greeting card I used to make that other card I showed you, and so I just made it into a little note and stuck in a pocket. I love pockets, I love tiny books, and then I had a second image from Wee Moon, and so I stuck that in there too. I don't tend to make the pages necessarily thematically match the words. I just go with what feels good to me in the moment and what I have available, and also a lot of times the things I use relate directly to that day, like the experiences of the day. So this page, again, is using some Living the Questions printables. It has a small snippet from a Wee Moon. I made the word card into a pocket, and then I made the prayer cards into a little fold-out message reminder. I like how these books become a holding space, but also how they become kind of a choose-your-own-adventure experience when you finish them, and you can wander back through it and get the little messages and insights. This one I did write new stuff in. This one I kept very simple again. I used only my own printed cards that are available to you in the printable section. I had some clouds from a magazine that I cut out. I made the word into the pocket, and then I glued 2 of the prayers together to make a flip over little card that I tucked in the pocket there. More magazine pictures. This is, these were some leaves that we used during our fall equinox ritual, and so I saved them, and when they got kind of dry I stuck them in. And this time I made the word into a little note. So it's kind of like, this is a picture cut out of a magazine, and it's kind of like, oh, here I come, you know, to the house. What message do I get? Oh, begin. Leftover clouds, leftover houses. Oh, I didn't write an affirmation on this one. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're a failure. This one, again, I used the word pocket and then 2 prayer cards made into a flip-out card. And then I was using up some leftovers from Wee Moon, from other stuff that I'd cut out, and so I combined them all. And this one does relate, this tending, I feel like the images that I chose here related. Oh, looks like I didn't write an affirmation on that one too. I was doing a 30 Days of Goddess prayer book at the same time. And so I do encourage people not to duplicate. Like if you have too many planners or too many books, journals going on at one time, and you feel pressured to duplicate the information across books, you'll get discouraged and you'll stop doing it. So only put in what you want to put in and what feels good to you, and ideally something that's in addition versus like replication across mediums. And then this one I made some of the remaining prayer cards into another little fold-out book. Like I said, I kept this particular version of the prayer book super simple because I was doing a 30 days prayer book at the same time. Look how nice and fat that got. And I didn't want to overwhelm myself by making it to be too many to-dos at once. Oops. And then the final page, I went ahead and added one of the daily practice cards, made my things into a card, added some of the printable stickers, a little affirmation, and then another little prayer card that I made. And like I said, I didn't finish coloring this one necessarily because I have another one going on, and I may come back to that. And I recommend this. This is just those greeting cards that people send you when they're asking for a donation, and you know, they can be useful as a pocket to hold your materials. This one really worked well for holding all the printouts, and then it creates kind of this grab and go container, so when you can literally take this with you practically everywhere. If you have it and a glue stick and a tiny pair of scissors, you can kind of have a project, a practice, a prayer book that accompanies you in full service, so to speak, wherever you are. I work on mine in the car on the way to, you know, dentist appointments, and I'll be cutting out my tiny little affirmations and gluing them down with a glue stick. So I have kind of a self-contained little practice with that. So I hope that helps explain some of the options. Thanks for being here.